just want to slide back here and say, you know, we have to peel, right? So
Yeah, brand new boiler. Look at that.
I mean, I just received this today and put it on the stand, and it's always fun to peel the plastic, right?
Yeah, it's like a mandarin orange. It's always fun to see if you can get the whole damn thing at once.
Yeah, you can't. And I'll have to work on more of that later. But there we go. That's my new TFTN 110 that just came in, and there it sits, boys and girls. Let me get that screen back on. Hello, Mr. Screen. There we go. Cool. Anyway, so there it is. There's the TFTN in its glory. Good. So tonight is not an installation session. We will not be discussing installation. We will be talking about what it will do and how it will do it, how it compares to the TFT and how it doesn't compare to the TFT. So that'd be kind of fun. So the first thing we notice is the touchscreen is totally different. So the size is different. The guts are different. Currently, the 4 smaller ones we're releasing have copper inside that will change to stainless steel when we come out with the 3 larger ones, when we can get bulk payment on all of it. So, but for right now, it is copper inside until we change it over to stainless. So what sizes are available? You can see the TFT on the side. So we're getting rid of the 60. The 60 was the least purchased product in our entire TFT line. So the 85 is going to take the place of both the 60 and the 85. We have a 110 gets the 110, the 154 becomes a 150, and the 201 becomes a 199. Ooh, big deal, right? A couple thousand BTU is not going to cost any of us anything, right? So what's the same? And this is a big question that we always have. What is the same? So still a touchscreen, only larger. Not by much, but it is slightly larger. Still supply and return on the top and bottom, just like the TFT. Still 24 volt available, so you can use power stealing thermostats. And you have 24 volt to power up like a Tecmar control if you had to do snow melt. Still the electrical outlet on the side. And we actually put a cover on it now, so you can't stick your finger in it until you pull the cover off. Still 10-to-1 turn down ratio. Still installs basically the same because your supply and return are still top and bottom. Still no boiler circulator. So you had to buy a circulator for the TFT. You still have to buy a boiler circulator for the TFTN. On the right-hand side shows you the boiler cabinet sizes. I apologize that I didn't put a comparison of the two up, but it is, as you can see, slightly larger. Not much larger, slightly larger. So, but what's different? And that's what we're here for tonight. That's what we're here to discuss. What's different and what are the new features and benefits? So let's do what we all do when we meet somebody. Let's check out its body language. Let's see what she looks like on the outside and what we notice right up front. So initially, right on the front, we see that it has universal adapters for the flue. We see supply and return at the top and bottom. Supply and return at the top and bottom. There's a universal connectors on the top. Universal connectors. It will take PVC, CPVC on the top gasket and polypropylene on the lower gasket. To give you that on a sideways view, that's what it looks like. You have a top gasket that can take CPVC or PVC, lower gasket that can take polypropylene. Now, I want you guys to all make note of something. 2-inch and 3-inch polypropylene by all manufacturers is the same outside diameter. If you're using polypro, when you get the 4-inch, it'll fit just nice in the polypropylene gasket. But if you're using any other manufacturer, AKA Centrotherm, you will need to get an appliance adapter to go from the PVC, CPVC down to the polypropylene. So I'm just waving at your wife as she went by. Sorry. Hi, Keepa. So keep that in mind. Your air intake is on the left, your air exhaust is on the right. That's shown here. Big difference on this one, and I don't know anybody who is using the top connector for gas, but now the gas connector is only on the bottom. The condensate trap is built in and does come with a shield to protect it for when you stand it on its end and you don't crush the condensate trap. Doesn't mean you should set it on the bottom. It just means we're trying to protect ourselves from giving out 100 or 200 traps every year for people who say it was defective in the box because it was cracked, when in reality it was cracked in the field by standing it up on its base. All right. So supply and return at top and bottom, just as the TFT was. They're all coming off the side now, not either side, not left side. So all the sizes from 80 through 199, the supply and return are all on the right. Inlet, outlet, yada, yada. Okay, good. So what's under the cover? And that's what we're here for. Let's discuss what's under the cover. So if you remember the TFT touchscreen on the left and the TFTN screen, the NTI net version of it, on the right-hand side. Looks a little different, doesn't it? Let's zoom in on that so you guys can appreciate it a little bit. Well, either my eyes are fuzzier. When I blew it up, it looks a little fuzzy, but that's okay. You get the gist of it. So let's go a little bit more into depth on this. So we now show you the inlet pressure here. We show you the boiler size and what you have in stock in-house. We show you the inlet temperature coming in here. Wi-Fi status is up in the corner, date and time, of course. Outlet temperature actual is inside the speedometer, and this speedometer shows you where we're at on temperature. Outlet temperature ranges are listed right there. Boiler system and domestic recirculation pump status will actually show green if it's calling, so you don't have to guess if it is anymore. This is a setup button that you get to set it up or to get the diagnostics. Zone details, you can click on that and see the zones. Boiler details, of course. User menu is in the middle. Cascading, which is not available yet. These younger versions do not have cascade built in yet. Airs, of course, still give you a history bar. Domestic hot water set point, what it's doing. Boiler status, what it's doing over right here in the center, which is a pretty cool. The boiler status will actually show you if it's running, what it's heating on, what it's going for, where it's going. Burner power level is also right here on the right-hand side. Domestic hot water temperature, burner enable or disable. That's not an on-off switch. The on-off switch is located under the control panel inside the jacket. This simply disables the burner so the burner won't go on. Outlet temperature, press to select internet weather for outdoor temperature. Wi-Fi weather conditions, woo, and operating mode is right here. So that's what the screen shows you, a bit more than we had before in it. So poll question number 3, if you would, Ted.
Yeah, let's have a look at that. So the question, how many zones do you typically have?
Oh, this should be how many?
Right. Instead of just
how many zones do you typically have? Ow!
Right. Ow. Anyway, make your choice. Make sure you get your vote in. Only 50%. Yep, 63% voted. You must have an opinion.
I mean, I would think you would know how many zones you typically have. I mean,
right.
I mean, a typical household. I mean, I know you're working on one area. I would think you would know how many you do.
Well, maybe we have some coy responders.
Ooh, they don't want to let the cat out of the bag as to how many zones they do, huh?
That's right. You might, your competition might find out.
Yeah, I split every house up into 4 zones, blah, blah, blah.
Up, down, left, right?
Yeah, exactly. Up, down. Core, armpit, head.
Okay, I think we've given it plenty of time here. We're at a minute and a half. So let's say we got 50% respond 3 or less, 41% are 4 to 6, 5% are 6 to 12, and 5% say they're simply crazy, they do 12 or more.
Wow. Wow, that's unbelievable.
That's a lot of zones, a lot of
That is
zones.
a lot of zones. So cool. All
All
right.
right.
So let's talk about features that I think you'll love, and I think Ted thinks that you'll love it. We'll look at some of these. There's an easy setup wizard now, so no
Yeah,
more
having said
guesswork.
that, I mean, I've been running this boiler here at home as a beta test now for a year. So there are a lot of these things I already love.
That gives you the 5-star approval by Ted Lowe. So easy setup wizard, so you can get started quick without asking a lot of questions. They'll ask it for you. There's a 3-zone controller built in that can do either 24 volt or 120 volt with a change of a simple jumper. That means that you can use zone valves or circulators going onto the zone panel. There's a 3-zone add-on control that you can get that will give you up to 6 zones to be controlled by the control. You can have a distinct different temperature for each one and set the priority level you want for each one. So if you have a zone that's really high temperature and you don't want certain zones to run while that's happening and get that temperature, you can actually turn them off when that's going on. And you can do that multiple ways. It's Wi-Fi out of the box, Wi-Fi compatible out of the box, has internet weather as long as you register online so it knows where it lives. An adjustable high limit is built in. I'm told it's CSD1 compliant, though I just got mine, so I haven't been able to check that out. And a domestic hot water recirculator and adjustable schedule for the DHW recirc, which is something I've never seen on a boiler. Buffer tank charging function. Now, we've had a lot of people asking about buffer tanks and what they can do. So we now have a buffer tank charging function built in. You can get optional NTI room sensors that will actually tell the boiler the delta T in that room, not just an on-off switch. It auto detects between an aquastat or a sensor for your domestic hot water. So if you're not using one of our indirects that comes with a tank sensor, or maybe you have a Buderus in place that has a tank sensor, they'll both work and it'll automatically sense you have the tank sensor. Whereas if you have an aquastat, it'll automatically know you have a dead end switch. You can use power stealing 24 volt thermostats on this unit, just like the TFT. Control settings are backed up in its own memory, which is pretty cool. You have 0 to 10 input and 0 to 10 boiler output. You have outdoor plus 2 auxiliary temperature sensors. You have boiler, domestic hot water, and 2 additional auxiliary pump outputs. They are separate from the zone outputs. You have a 0 to 10 volt output for PWM, variable speed pump output. Of course, Ted and I went through this, and we don't know of one that's a circulator out there that's capable to do that yet, but that option is there. And you do have alarm contacts. What's that, Ted?
I said, when the circulator becomes available, we'll be ready.
And we'll have it. It'll already be there. So, and easy combustion analysis. And by easy, I mean easy. So let's take a look inside underneath the cover. You open it up, you take 2 screws off the bottom, the upper 2 screws of the control panel slide, you can just loosen them up because they're keyholes, so that it slides up and gets out. And inside you have a wiring that looks like this. And I know that looks pretty small on there. I'm just showing one particular situation. So let me zoom in on just the terminals. So here's your terminals. Your high voltage is on the left, your low voltage is on the right. You have your boiler pump, your domestic pump, auxiliary pump 1 and 2. You have your incoming line in neutral. The grounds are all on screws down below that I don't show you. The grounding screws are below, so you don't land the screw on the terminal block. You have your zone output, zone 1, 2, and 3, and the common for it. And you take your jumper here and you go from zone input, either jump to 24 volt or jump to 120 volt. And you now have designated what your pumps are going to get. Extremely easy to get to. Over the low voltage wiring, you have thermostat 1, 2, and 3. You have your alarm contacts, your auxiliary limit switch if you need to have one, your 0 to 10 in, your 0 to 10 out, your variable speed contacts for your variable speed pump, your domestic hot water, your outdoor sensor, your auxiliary sensor 1 and auxiliary sensor 2, and your bus terminals, which is how you connect to other boilers when you're cascading and when that's available. So far so good, right, guys? So now let's look at it if you're doing zone valves. So here's a zone valve. So we put the jumper over to 24 volt. We have zone 1, 2, and 3 going in. You have your commons coming over, tied together. You have your boiler pump, domestic pump, system pump, and DHW recirculation pump on your auxiliaries. Over here, you have your boiler pump. You have your room thermostats, of course, outdoor sensor, system sensor for your buffer tank, domestic hot water recirculation sensor. You could have building management going into your 0 to 10 in, and your NTI room sensors if you were using them, which I don't show them wired in. So good. Now, what do you do if you use circulators? You simply, everything else is the same. You simply take your jumper from 24 volt to 120 volt, and now these contacts are all 120 volt live.
Which is actually what you're showing right now. You're showing zone pumps.
Exactly. Well, see the one previous, zone valves.
Yeah, zone valves.
Zone pumps. There we go.
Very cool. Very cool.
All with a change of a jumper. So, and yes, the system doesn't know if you leave the jumper in for 120 volt and you send it to your zone valves, you will let the smoke out. Or if you leave the jumper in 24 volt and you put on circulators, they won't run. The system doesn't know. You do. You have to be smart enough to change the jumper. So let's look at some of the setup wizards and some of the stuff we got going on here, just to show you how easy this thing is to navigate. So quick and easy setup of the basic boiler settings. So you simply touch setup there in the bottom left-hand corner. If you weren't sure where that was, I'll point it out with my cursor. Here's the setup button. If you click on that, it brings up this screen. Now note that here you have the setup wizard, your tech menu, which is where you can change your settings by the number, just like you do on the TRX and the FTVN. You have your user menu, you have test mode, you have your connectivity, and your diagnostics. So all that is under setup. Wasn't easy for me to find that the first time, but now that I know where it is, it's very easy. So if you click on Setup Wizard, it brings up this screen. It asks you how many zones you have. Pretty basic, right? You answer. And then you set up whether you have high temperature, medium temperature, or low temperature on that zone. Then you hit next. And then you tweak and confirm those settings. It'll give you the ranges of what you picked in. Like if you had picked low temperature, you would never be able to get over 140. Middle temperature would be 160, and high temperature would be 180. And then you just hit your minimum and maximum, your auto temperature control, and you're ready to rock and roll with it. Why am I not advancing? There we go. Next is domestic hot water, still in the quick setup. So you don't have to pick whether you have sensor or aquastat. It automatically senses it, and you dial in your temperature. And next, if you want to make a Wi-Fi connection, you say yes or no. Now, if you say yes, then you would start the app. Yes, there is an NTI app now that once you enter into this and say you want to do it, the app will automatically detect the boiler and you simply log it onto your portal. How cool is that shit? You log it onto the internet and you're ready to rock and roll. So wait for the connection for the internet. Once it's done, it gives you 2 check marks and off it goes. On the initial ones, like Ted, you and I both had one of the original field test studies of these. The original wasn't so easy to set up on the internet. The second set of controls they gave us to test was easier but slower, if that could be a way. And the last set have definitely speeded this whole thing up, so it's been pretty good. So
now, having said that, I did not use the app. I did it the old school way, the way on my phone, the way I learned to do it with the TRX and the FTVN, and that worked as well. So if you're fine with that and familiar with it, you can do that too.
192.168.1.1. And I still do it that way too, because I have to delete my app, but every time I go to reload it, it says, do you want to download it from the cloud? I'm like, no, I want a new one so I can start over, and I'll get it eventually. So, right. And then use internet weather. Of course, it needs to know where it lives in order to use internet weather, which means you have to register either on the homeowners, either the homeowner has to register the boiler online, or you have to register the boiler online on your dashboard. So It needs to know where it lives in order to use internet weather. And then finish. You're done. There's your setup wizard. That was pretty damn easy, wasn't it?
You're all set.
And then after you hit finish, it brings up this screen and rocks and roll with it. So now let's look at the info button, right? So provides a clear description of the parameters. So here's your tech menu, central heat setup. You can go into it on the info button next to max. And if you didn't see that, settings, show curve, general settings, Z1, down you go. You hit the info button and it brings it up and it looks like this. And it will tell you exactly what's going on. So you don't have to read you need to read the manual, but this will give you a reminder on the screen. For those of us like Ted and I who always read the manual before we get into these controls, yeah. So you hit OK and you're done. So the interactive heating curve, you go to the setup, you go to the tech menu, again, central heat setup, show heating curve, just like you could on the TFT. You can show the people the curve. You can adjust it right from there. Setup menu, tech menu.
Actually, unlike the TFT, you can tweak all kinds of things about that curve sort of in real time while you're looking at it. That's pretty cool.
From this screen. That's the up and down arrows. You can adjust your temperatures accordingly and
you
put
can
it where you
literally
want.
play with that thing, because you can adjust your max, your minimum, your slope, your offset, everything while you're looking at it, and you see it adjust. You see it change in real time. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, and you can do that for each zone, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, you can play away on this thing. It's amazing. So into the tech menu again, the complete menu. From here, you can go to all of your 4.2.1s and 4.0.0s, and you can do all that on all the parameter lists, just like you can on the TRX and the FTVN. Hit the back button and the specific parameter that you want. And for those of you online, and if you know the password is SOLA, you're wrong, because the new password is NTI net, all lowercase. So NTI net is the new password for those of you who are wondering, so the homeowner can't get into this. But here now, once you get into the specific parameter, you can just dial up and dial down. You don't have to do anything else to get to it. No enter, enter, enter. Just hit the little back and forth arrows underneath the parameter and you got it set. Heating zones can be configured with 3 different priority levels. The zones with equal priority level will function together, operating at the temperature of the lowest to the highest. The zones with a higher priority, the lower numerical, will be serviced first. So 1 gets serviced first, 2 gets serviced second, 3rd gets serviced first, 3rd. So easy enough to do. Go to setup tech menu, bring the screen up to central heat, go to the advanced settings, and go to your zone priority level. This will tell it when it should and shouldn't run. So if you want everything to run at one time, just leave it at priority 1. If you want something to come on after that priority is done, then you set it to priority 2. And then if you have something that you don't want to run when 1 and 2 are on, set that to priority 3. And that's how you get everything to run at its own time. So for instance, you have duct coils, baseboard, and radiant. Well, we know the radiant's going to run all the time. So that I would make priority 3. Baseboards are going to use outdoor reset, especially if it's cast iron baseboard or radiators. We're going to use outdoor reset. I'd make that priority 2. And your duct coils, especially if you don't have a new air handler with variable speed, you're going to run 180 degrees to that. So you're going to make that priority 1. Change zone selection and access the priority level for each of the other zones. As you see, we've changed zone living room to 2 here, and we've set the basement to 3. So there's your priority levels, and you can do that for all 6 zones if you had the 3 zone priority. Poll question number 4, if you would, Ted.
There you go. So do you do domestic hot water recirc? Is that typical in your installations? Yay or nay? Well, we got responses quickly for that.
Wow. No way. What did we get?
Well, Well, I guess maybe I jumped the gun. We're still seeing the roughly 60% that vote regularly here.
What, is everybody else sleeping? Am I that
You put
boring
them
tonight?
down. You put them down, Steve.
Dude, you might think I had a long day already.
Well, we'll give it the standard minute, see what's got.
Yep. What do we end up with?
There we go. Okay, 74% say yes, they do domestic water recirc, and 26 say no.
Cool. All right. Well, excellent. For those of you who do, then that's great, because now you can actually read the temperature of the DHW recirculation loop and control the operation of it from the actual screens. Operate in accordance to the DHW set point, recirculation set point, temperature and or domestic recirculation schedule. So you can do it either way. Again, you go to setup, you go to the user menu, you go into the user menu, and of course, DHW recirculation, and you adjust it from here. DHW recirculation set point, then choose the following schedule: always active, domestic time program, or domestic recirculation time program, whatever you want to do. You can set right up from here. So that's what the program looks like. If you choose to do a timed program where you don't want this thing to come on during the day, you don't want to maintain temperature on the tubes during, on the domestic, between the hours of 8 and noon and from 4 to 6. So you can set this time frame up accordingly and by the day. So the unfortunate thing right now is the time program, the recirculation program, and the recirc program right now are coming out in the 2023 release of the software. So, and I'm told that you'll be able to flash that in the field, and we'll go from there. Good. So Ted, while you're answering questions, give me poll question number 5, if you would.
All right. So do you ever do a combustion analysis on a TFT? Who's done one?
What do we got, Ted?
Well, let me see. At 33 seconds in, we've got 59% have voted. And we're seeing fairly equal distribution among the first 3 choices.
Wow.
So here we go. We're approaching a minute. We'll cut it off. All right, everybody's had a chance. 25% say yes, it was involved. 29% say no, that's someone else's job. 41% say easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Gotta love that.
And 6% say, hey, there's got to be a better way.
Cool. Well, for those of you who want a better way, we have it for you. You might think these were leading questions coming into it. So if you go again to the setup menu and you go to the test mode and you go to burner tests, you can actually go there. And again, everything on the screen is interactive. You do manual power. That's the bottom button. Let me see if I can get my button here. Manual power, max power, minimum power. You can rock and roll with it right from this screen. Now, let me explain something to you about the combustion test. So the cool thing about the combustion test now, on the existing TFT, you have to turn off the outdoor reset and or disconnect the outdoor sensor. You have to give it a manual turn on to one of your zones, give it a call for heat, and so the boiler knows to run the burner and turn your outdoor reset off and go from there. But on this boiler, when you go into the test and you do minimum or maximum power, it'll turn on every zone that's connected to the boiler and go to maximum energy. So it'll go to 180 degrees if that's what you have set. Now, this is a word of warning that if you have radiant zones and you have them as priority 2 and 3, Let me repeat, they all come on. But now you don't have to disconnect. You don't have to turn anything off. You don't have to change any settings. You just go here and you start the test, and it runs like a son of a bitch. Please note that for the first 4 minutes of this boiler's life, when it first 4 minutes of call for heat, you will see the right-hand side flashing of the burner right here, 4 minutes flashing, because it will only run to 40% to burn off any oil that may be any oil or any stuff that's in there from manufacturing. Burn it off before it'll actually go up to power. So it will flash until it does that. Once it's done flashing, you're ready to go. So Ted, if you would, poll question number 6.
Poll question number 6. What are your thoughts? What do you think about what you've all just seen? Mhm. Well, we're getting up towards 1 minute here. We'll give it a few more seconds and roll the film here. Okay, 33%, I like it. 17%, can't wait to use it. 6%, fascinating. And 47%, all of the above.
Cool. So
That's
I just
good.
want to give you guys a quick review of something here to just drive a little thing home from the home screen. So of course you have your setup, which we talked about being able to do your quick startup guide or your quick start guide. You can do your combustion analysis. You can do all of your technology from here. Your zone details if you want to hit it, but you can touch on each zone and it will bring up that zone. If that zone's running, the circulator will be green. If the pump is running, it will be green over here. You still have your outlet temperature, you have your inlet, your boiler pressure, your domestic hot water temperature, and what power the burner's running at. In dead center, still like the dead center here, it still shows you what state you're in. It still shows you your run, central heat, automatic temperature control. In my humble opinion, it is far beyond anything that the TFT would do. So I hope you guys enjoyed the nice presentation with that.
Thanks for watching the video today. If you'd like to check out more videos, see the link below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for all the future updates. And also check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.